Hey guys, it's No Filter, otherwise known as Wizrad, and here is my review for God of War on the PS4. This is going to be pretty informal, but I did want to get my thoughts out here in a relatively quick video. If you guys have been following me on Twitter, which if you haven't, you should probably take a look at that. I post there pretty often with screenshots and my thoughts on games and stuff like that. I'm pretty active on it, so again, if you want to follow me on Twitter, check in the description, or you can just look up Wizrad. Anyway, yeah, let's just get started here. So I'm going to go over just kind of my overall thoughts. Then I have a few segments, one about gameplay, presentation, story, and then the bad, which there isn't very much bad, or at least not much that's significant. But I definitely wanted to point out a few things here that kind of worry me about future games. But let's get started. So overall, this game was an absolute blast. I was completely blown away by this. I was not expecting it to be this good, especially after the reveal at the E3 before. I just didn't see how this was really going to capture anything too crazy, but they did it. I'm telling you, this game is something else. It's definitely my game of the year so far. This is the best first 2 hours in a game I've had since Breath of the Wild, which is huge, right? Like, Breath of the Wild is one of the best games ever made, and this is rivaling that for some of the best first impressions of a game I've had. It seriously is that good. The first 2 hours had amazing story progression, epic scenarios, and it was really masterfully made with the progression and how you learned the new combat system and how fresh and unique it felt. I love that in games where you have something unique like that you have to learn yourself and adjust to, and that's the best part about games. It doesn't seem like many gamers care for that these days. If it's a different control scheme, they won't pick it up. Think like motion controls on the Wii, like shooters. Better controls, it's pretty much a guarantee that that's a better control system, but people aren't used to it and they just don't want to give it a go. Whereas for me, I'm a gamer. I like to play new, creative, unique gameplay experiences, and this is one of them, and that's honestly why this is one of the better games I played in recent memory. Onto the gameplay though. So this is where it shines the best, is in the combat system, this newly made combat system. It's one of the best I've ever played, ever. I always love games that are unique, or at least play like something that I've never played before, and the new controls and the form of combat work so well here. There's like the light and heavy combat with the axe, sure, that we've seen stuff sort of like that, but with like an ability like Thor to recall back the axe to your hand. So basically you can throw the axe, hit an enemy. When you call it back, it does additional frost damage to that enemy. You then get the axe, wail back on other people, throw it far again, recall it back, hit enemies while it's flying back towards you. So good. So good. There's so many different combinations of how you can do this. And again, the progression system itself is fantastic. You're constantly learning new moves that are significant. It's not like a lot of other games, like the original God of War games or most other games where you get upgrades, or you open a new skill tree or something like that, where the moves are just like, oh yeah, well now you can hit X 3 times and you do a combo. No, this has stuff like that, but because of how in-depth and engaging the combat is and some of these moves themselves, it feels significant, and I absolutely love it. You don't see that very often in games. Basically, when I'm playing this game, I wanted to go. I was waiting and I was looking forward to every single combat situation. No single enemy was like just I'm just hitting R2 until he's dead kind of a thing. I've always testing out new things. They always threw different sort of enemies at you. I'll get to the design of the enemies later, but it was so unique and fresh throughout the first, 2/3 of the game, which is amazing to keep you so engaged for that long. This is a long game too, guys. It's not a short game. I think it was upwards of 20 plus hours for this game, which is really good for a game that's so action packed like this one is. But yeah, that's enough gushing about the combat system. That is by far the best thing about this game, and what makes this game one of the best games ever made, probably in my opinion. Or at least I might need to take some time to really think it over, but it's right up there. It's one of the best games in recent memory. As far as everything else goes, though, the exploration is decent. The areas you're in are small. They look like they'd be huge, but they have like the invisible walls and kind of stuff like that. And the small areas are in an open world kind of a world, but each area has hidden collectibles and treasure chests that are usually behind different puzzles that you can do, or if you just have a keen eye for exploring, and that is pretty great. The puzzles are pretty cool for most of the time. Usually they implement like the freezing aspect of the axe or the throwing of the axe to solve some different environmental puzzles, which are really actually pretty fun. I think they're really well designed. The boss battles are actually really good too. They're not very tough though. It was kind of disappointing, actually, not gonna lie. Like, the boss battles were really fun to watch and play through, and like a lot of it was interactive, like where you're actually, it's like actual combat. But they incorporate the cinematics like really well with it, and the gameplay really well. And it's not just QuickTime events, so like those are bonuses, but at the same time, they kind of leave a little bit to be desired, especially when you compare this to past God of War games. But who knows, maybe we'll see another God of War game that'll have some more ambitious boss battles. But this was really cool nevertheless. Next that I want to talk about was, I'll go to presentation. So to be fair, this is... I only have a 720p TV. I really am not a big graphics whore or anything like that, but this is one of the most gorgeous games I've ever seen. I'll be getting a 4K TV probably around Christmas of 2018, but I've never seen a game quite like this. The environments do take a bit of a hit in quality, but I think it might just be in comparison, because this is the most detailed model of a person I've ever seen in a video game, like ever. Like, it looks stunning. It almost like pops off the screen. It is so detailed. So then when you compare it to the environments, it's a little different. You can see that one's either higher resolution or whatever it is, or just more detail thrown into that than anything else. But it looks incredible, and that's what you're seeing the majority of the game. You're seeing that in the lower bottom left third of the screen pretty much the entire game. So it looks fantastic. As far as some of the enemy designs, some of the trolls look really cool, but again, they're kind of just copy pasted a lot of the time, just with maybe a different element to each of them. But most of the other enemies, though, this is kind of a negative that I didn't really want to get into until the end, but they're pretty samey. They're not very interesting, but they do have different, just as far as design wise, like some of them will have shields, some of them will be more powerful, but they all kind of look the same. They're just kind of like wispy, soulless creature things. It's not too much. They do throw in like wolves and stuff like that, or wolverines in there at times, and some like shamans, but yeah, it's not too much of a crazy interesting enemy designs like that, but they do look really good. And again, it's just the combat system is so great to play. And yes, again, Sony is finally putting more color in their games. Uncharted, for Last of Us, and now this, it's really good stuff. Like, that's one of my main complaints that I had from the previous generations, was that all these new HD games that everyone's gotta love, they're just all grays, blacks, and browns, and it just looked gross. Like, go back to so many games coming from like PS3 and 360 generation, it just looked disgusting. So seeing games like these now with the power behind them, with so much color thrown into it, it's really good to see. Next, and the last main kind of segment about the game before I get to my issues with it, the story, to me, it wasn't too engaging. I did like some of the lore in it, but I wasn't going to read up on like everything. There's a lot of collectibles that you collect about the lore of the world and stuff like that, but I like the whole concept behind it, and the if you guys obviously didn't know, it's like Norse mythology, which is my favorite of all the, I guess, mythologies that you have. Yeah, I guess. But yeah, the basic premise is interesting, that you're kind of following through with the story, and the people that you see are interesting. It's always cool when you see different people kind of thrown into the mix, because a lot of the game is kind of isolated between you and your son, Atreus. But yeah, no, and like the story was engaging enough that it really made me interested at the end of the game, when it really kind of piled on some heavy story elements. But yeah, let's get into my problems with the game, because it's just, this is more disappointing for me than anything else. Some of these are here, but yeah, let's just get into it. The familiarity. So everything outside of the combat system is sort of disappointing as far as the game goes. All this stuff is things we've seen previously in basically every other action adventure game we've seen in the past 5+ years. It has the same sort of Metroidvania aspects mixed in, where you can't go past this little element here until you have someone else here to throw a rope up, and now you can climb something that Kratos, even though he's a god, he could have easily jumped up in the first place. I'm not going to get into that, but it has like the co-op gameplay with an AI partner. It has like collectibles throughout the whole world, kind of a thing that you go up to a dead body, you collect this glowing orb that's there. It has the level progression, which again was really good, but it's something we have seen. And the pace is pretty much the same as all these other games. But again, most of these aren't actually like bad things. It's just very familiar, and it's again not inherently bad, but it's disappointing. And because of it, it does sour the experience a bit. Even if they themselves aren't inherently bad, again, the combat system was so revolutionary. I was expecting something new after playing this amazing combat system and story progression the first 2 hours, and then, when you're going through the game, you go through the paces that you've played with so many of these other games like Uncharted, Last of Us, Tomb Raider, all that kind of stuff. Dark Souls even a little bit, but anyway, that's all I wanted to kind of talk about there, is just the familiarity with so much of the game is kind of disappointing, and how much it took from other games to base what it's, what it is right now. I don't know. It's kind of sad to see, but other thing, what the fuck is up with the updates? Literally every single day I played the game, they had some big ass update file to download before I started. Like, most of the PS4 games I've had came out previously, so this was one of the first ones I bought day one with the game. With release. Is this fucking normal on PS4? Please tell me this isn't fucking normal. This is ridiculous. Every single time I played, I have a long ass update to wait for. So, if you guys see my other video that's coming out, I talk about issues the PS4 has that Switch doesn't, kind of a thing. And that's one of my main ones, is how fucking slow the PS4 is in everything it does. So even when I'm trying to start up the game after I waited so fucking long for the PS4 to boot up, I have to wait another fucking 5-10 minutes for the update file every single time. Not a single time I played the game it didn't have a new update file. What the hell's wrong with games these days? So fucking frustrating. I know it's not mainly just the game, but it's just the whole thing in general. It's just dumb. Another issue I had was the first 2/3, the progression and learning the game was the best. It was amazing. One of the best games I've ever played. It was so damn good. It was incredible. However, the last third really slowed down to a somewhat disappointing end, where you weren't really progressing much anymore. You were kind of doing the same thing in repetitive nature. The story was getting more interesting, but everything else kind of took a back seat. That was the big, that was the best part about the game at the start, and then it kind of died down towards the end, which was, again, it's disappointing, but it's not like the last third was bad. It's just disappointing that it really dropped off a little bit there. The next two could kind of be a little bit nitpicky if you think about it, but kind of like Xenoblade Chronicles X on the Wii U. The text is way too small, way too small. And the inventory and the upgrade system layout here is also something kind of terrible. How you have to move the cursor to give everything. You can't just click over on a D-pad or something for it to go to the next one. It's really kind of terrible for a lot of these things, and how you're upgrading. It's you get used to it, but it's really just kind of a chore to move through and explore through. As far as the my last issue that I had with the game, the exploration is kind of terrible. It seems like the game should be open, because it is open world for the most part, but the areas are so defined to where you have to go, when you have to go, how you do it. It's a little kind of disappointing like that. But one of the main parts that I find annoying is, say you jump up to a new level to a new plateau or something in the level. You see an area to jump up, so you jump up there, and then, okay, well, now you're just walking across here, and now you want to jump down on this other side, but no, you can only drop down from that ledge area that you're on in the exact spot where you jumped up. There's never any other branching paths off of it. There's always just like the one entrance that you got up there, and you have to leave. Like, even if there looks like nothing is blocking your way, there's going to be an invisible wall there that blocks you, and you just have to go right to. You can just basically see the whole map in plan view and say, okay, yeah, this isn't open at all. There's one entrance and there's one exit. That's all it is. Anyway, that's just kind of a nitpick, but yeah, I didn't want to end off this review too much on the negative. Just some of these things did grate on me after a little while, just especially with how amazing the rest of the game is. It's, again, like, this is the must-buy game of this year right now, and honestly, with what we know about what's coming out for, like, Switch, for example, like, I only have PS4 and Switch, I don't know if there's going to be a game that can top this, seriously. Like, this game is so amazing. Unless Fire Emblem can do something special, or I don't even know what. But anyway, guys, this has been my review of God of War. Just kind of a rant about it, I guess, now. But yeah, it's something special, guys. This is a must-buy for everybody. Definitely go pick this game up. And I will see you guys next time.